One of our 2029 grads gained 20 miles per hour in 2 years. Here's how he did it. In the very beginning, from the first time that I met Michael on his assessment, the first thing that jumped out right away is that he was only a 7th grader and he's only 12 years old, right? So when you're working with any kind of a youth athlete, but specifically Michael in this case, you want to evaluate where are they at from a movement perspective, where are they at from a proprioception perspective, just how well do they really know where their body is in space, and how advanced are they physically. In Michael's circumstance, he was an okay mover when it comes to the baseball side of things, right? You look at his actions from the crouch, you look at him on the mound, you look at his swing. There are definitely pieces in there that indicate that he could grow into a very talented baseball player and a very talented athlete. But there are also pieces in there that have a little bit of a disconnect that we wanted to touch up on, smooth out, and continue to kind of, slowly water over time as he physically develops, right? Some things on the throwing side were a little bit of a pushier arm action, or just a little bit of a lack of fluidity in the arm action, which is not uncommon by any means when you see a younger guy, just because the weight of the ball and things like that can be a big factor in how they move. So that was the biggest thing that we wanted to clean up on the throwing side, right? Is just get him a little smoother with the arm action, try to clean up the pushiness to some degree. On the other side, when we look at how he moves in terms of the weight room, Michael was very, very raw, right? When he came in, 12 years old, basically had never stepped foot in the weight room before. Our main goal was to just get the basics right. It was a little bit of a challenge, of course, with anybody to kind of make sure that they get a squat pattern right, a hinge pattern right, just basic upper body push and pull, strength, movements, etc. But that's really all there was to it for him in the beginning phases, right? For almost the first year, it's just very introductory movements, keep it simple, keep him consistent, bought in. And that was one really big overview key point I wanted to make with his training is keep it fun, right? Michael was a guy who was very unique, where he trained consistently 2-3 times a week all year round. And that's very, very rare from a 12 and 13-year-old. But if you can create a consistently challenging and fun environment for a young athlete, that is going to be the clearest path to making the type of changes that you see here, right? Where you can make really, really big strides in your movement quality, in your mechanics, in your physicality. I mean, you can see he looks like a completely different guy now. And at the end of the day, right, your metrics, he's running faster than he ever has, jumped a bunch of miles per hour, hitting even harder. We don't have, specific, T velo from him now, but I'm sure when he does the showcase, does a reassessment, things like that, we'll see that he's also seen jumps on the hitting side too. So that's just the first piece is when you're a younger guy, set the foundation right, get the basics right, and then go from there. So looking ahead, the plan moving forward for Michael, right? As I kind of mentioned in the beginning, when he was a younger guy, he had a lot of moving parts to some degree, just trying to figure out what he can and can't do. As he's kind of grown up now and he's, a freshman in high school, and you're going to figure out what kind of position you're going to be, that's the biggest thing that I'm trying to do with his throwing now is give him lots of options, right? There are some days where he's going to do some outfield throws, right? There are some days where he is still going to do catcher throws if he wants them. We're starting to try to experiment with getting on the mound more consistently, right? I mean, when you look at where Michael is at, he's in a very unique situation, and he's still not old. He has thrown nearly 85 from the outfield now, and he's thrown 80 off the mound. Who knows if he's going to be a position player? Who knows if he's going to be a pitcher at the next level? What we're trying to do is just give him all of the options he can and touch on both, right? So in the beginning portions of his throwing, maybe start with something simple to make sure we check the main boxes, right? Something a little more constrained, get the arm action in a good spot, start to feel energy transfer. And then depending on the day, it might be some mound-specific plyos in a bullpen, or it might be something more athletic focused, maybe some rapid fire throws, drop steps, something like that, into some mountain work, or outfield work, I should say, not mountain work. So you could see a little bit of both there. In the weight room, right, as he's now kind of established a really good base, right, over the last 2 years, we've dominated the basics, gained a lot of weight, a lot of strength, and honestly a lot of height too. Michael's kind of really shotting up here over the last couple of years. What we want to do now is continue to make the training environment challenging, right? I talked about making it exciting and things like that to build consistency in your first couple of years when you're younger. But now that you kind of spend 2 years of your training economy, you want to continually progress him and challenge him, right? So more advanced movements, setting him up in more difficult positions, more maybe single leg variations, or just more load with a bar. The biggest thing that we're looking to avoid, I should say, here as we move forward is kind of negate any of the positive changes we made in terms of movement quality, right? If you do a really good job setting up the beginning, the last thing you want to do is kind of like create some negative changes in terms of, spinal hygiene, hip mobility, shoulder mobility. So you want to find a kind of toe that balance between pushing him physically, right? Progressively making it more difficult, improving power output, strength, things like that without any of the, negative side effects. So that's going to be what's on the horizon here for Mike. Let's continue to push him, see what he can kind of become there in terms of an overall athlete, output wise, throwing wise, sprint speed wise, and kind of let the cards fall where they may. I'm very confident that he could grow on to be a very high level position player, outfielder, catcher, etc., or on the mound. And we're going to continue to water both of those plants and kind of see where the future takes him. If you are looking to gain 20 miles per hour like Michael, feel free to click on any of these 3 lifting samples below.